We had spring games all over the place yesterday. There were a bunch of them in the SEC. Georgia, G-Day happened. And you know what my biggest takeaway was? It was not even a position group. It was just overall depth. You know, you're told that no one has depth anymore. And it is true, no one has the kind of depth Georgia had 4 or 5 years ago. No one has the kind of depth Bama had 10 years ago. They got really good depth there. So they were down a couple of corners. Their top running back went down first play of the day. They were down 2 receivers, a defensive lineman, a linebacker. So, you know, that sounds like the entire starting rotation is gutted. And yet you turn on the game, just a really good-looking football team. It's spring, so it doesn't look like a game would in the fall, but it was a tight end show. That's what it was. Jaden Riddell, specifically, is a guy that I have listened to Jake Rowe and Rusty Manziel talk about a whole lot, and there he is. Voila. Kirby Smart's been pretty effusive in his praise about that kid as well. They got everyone involved, though. So Georgia's been a tight end factory for a long time. That looks to continue. I'll trust them at offensive line. I'll trust them at defensive line. Running back looks really good. They've replenished that thing totally from just a couple of years ago. Tight end, as I just mentioned, it really comes back down to the same question. How dynamic is the receiver group going to be? They had a couple of them out yesterday. That's what it comes down to with them. It doesn't come down to that in the form of, can they win 9 games? But it does come down to that. If they can win big games and leverage pressure situations in the playoffs, they got to have difference makers out there, and then they got to have a guy who can get them the ball. So, you know, you go part B of that is, well, how much can Gunnar Stockton improve? But he's got to have guys throw the ball to, outside just the tight end position. I think. I don't know. Maybe they may be deep enough there. Auburn had their spring game yesterday. Byron Brown didn't look good at all. That's the bad news. The good news is this really wasn't a football game, especially when it comes to his skill set, because they didn't use his legs, and you weren't allowed to hit him. And so when you rip away that part of Byron Brown's game, I don't think there was any scenario where he looked good yesterday. So that's the good news. He will give them the best chance to win at quarterback this fall. Now, the reason I am saying that is because Tristan Tia played yesterday and looked really good. And he's a guy to circle. It really makes you feel good about the quarterback position in the future at Auburn. But I started to get the text yesterday before I've seen the game. I start to get the text from some Auburn buddies. Hey, do we have a quarterback controversy here? No, you do not. No, you do not. If you're going to have one, it didn't happen yesterday at A-Day, at least. Let me say that. They used a whole lot of tempo. That's really what stood out the most. If you go back and you're watching this, they're going to use that heavily. You kind of know what you're getting because they got a bunch of South Florida imports on the offensive side. So it's not like a bunch of guys learning a new system there. But the overall talent roster there's some mixed feelings on this when I asked around the league. I feel like it's a second-tier talent roster. That means it's not Georgia, it's not Texas, it's not that, but it's within puncher's reach, where if they win on the margins, they can have themselves in games and they can challenge for a pretty good to really good season. That's on the high end. The low end is they don't win on the margins and they're a mistake-riddled team, and year one's really tough for Alex Golish. That's my feel on them as we exit spring. But I know Byron Brown looked terrible yesterday. I know that. He is not going to look terrible this year. I mean, he may not be all SEC, but he's not going to look terrible this year. Neither is Texas. So Texas yesterday, they had, did they call it a spring game or an open practice? Whatever it was. Quick 5-second timeout. Check and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It keeps it free. We love you. All right, back to the show. The one thing I wanted to see more from Texas was the one thing I really couldn't see, and that is offensive line, because they had 3 guys out yesterday. Now, I know like Eric Nolan over at Inside Texas, he wrote about this. He said, and continues to say, their staff feels good about the O-line. If their staff is right, this will be the best team in the country. If their staff is right. This is the team that has the potential to be like the heads-up favorite, sort of like a clear favorite. But that's if offensive line pans out. Because pretty much everywhere else on this team, they're either equal to or upgraded from what they had been, and that extends beyond personnel, like staffing moves. Specifically, I'm thinking on defense. They made really, really good moves, but that unit, that offensive line unit, that's the key that will decide whether this is a special team that could win a national championship or it's a team that had a ton of potential, but it was never able to be realized because the offensive line wouldn't allow it to be realized. Now, you've heard a lot about Cam Coleman all throughout this spring. He's the wide receiver transfer from Auburn with good reason. Cam Coleman's a monster. Cam Coleman was in a place last year where it was impossible for him to realize his full potential. He is in a place this year where he can realize his full potential. But I don't want to talk to you about Cam Coleman. Rasheem Biles has the chance to be every bit the impact player on the defensive side that they rightfully expect Cam Coleman to be on the offensive side. It's just the nation's not talking about Rasheem Biles as much. Texas fans are. He's a linebacker transfer from Pitt, and there's a very real scenario where the best player for Texas on either side of the ball this year is a transfer. Now, I know Colin Simmons exists. I know Arch Manning exists. And there are a lot of options for really, really good players on this team. So let's just say one of. I think one of the very best players on either side of the ball here will be Cam Coleman and Rasheem Biles. Running back's going to be good, man. Running back's going to be really good. This team's going to be really good. The floor for this team is extremely high. It's just all about offensive line. Texas A&M also had their spring game yesterday. This is a very different vibe. Texas A&M had a really big injury in this spring game yesterday. They lost Damian Sanford. He got carted off the field. That is their best linebacker. That is a team captain. And behind him, there's a lot of unknown at linebacker for Texas A&M. And it happened fairly early in the day to where it kind of zapped the mood. And I was talking to a lot of people who were there, and it was almost like at that point we want to just get it done, get it over with. Good news is they were 5 of 5 on field goals, so that was a problem for them at times last year. But I don't know. I didn't take a ton away from A&M's like I did these others. I think when you have that stuff happen in a spring game, it just kind of shifts everyone's mentality into, man, let's make sure we just tiptoe around and get out of here healthy. We don't want a repeat of what we just saw happen. And we don't have an update on him today. There's no rush on it, obviously, because you got the rest of April and then June, July, and August before we play football. But, yeah, I hated to see that. Oklahoma. This time last year, I was touting John Mateer to win the Heisman. And in my book, the only thing that stopped it was the injury. That's how I remember history. John Mateer was a runaway favorite to win the Heisman until he got hurt. That's how I remember it. Most of you don't remember it that way because that's not actually the way that history played out. But I know my truth, as Vince Vaughn said in what was that? Was it 4 Christmases? Yes, 4 Christmases. I know my truth. It was a scene about John Mateer. Yeah, John Mateer looks like a better quarterback. To the semi-trained eye, he looks like a better quarterback. It just feels right. And I think a lot of that has to do with the idea that they can't possibly be worse running the ball. And I think not only will they be improved there, I think Oklahoma will be pretty significantly improved running the ball. They had a couple of guys out yesterday and still looked really good. All right, now, bookmark what I just said, because we know wide receiver will be good there. So bookmark that, check at receiver, tentative check, write it in pencil, but tentative check at running back. We've got John Mateer back. George Stowa over at Sooner Scoop had the following to say. Offensive line has the highest potential of the Brent Venables era, pending they stay healthy, because maybe the depth situation is not the greatest in the world. So is that what we're looking at? Are we looking at a dual Red River hypothetical of offensive line being the key to unlocking SEC championship potential? I don't know what the acronym would be for that, but I feel like that's how we exit spring. Now, I feel like there may be more questions at Oklahoma than at Texas, maybe, but feel good about quarterback at Oklahoma, feel much better about the run game at Oklahoma. Feel good, Jesse. Feel good right now. Tough schedule, but feel good.